Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is called the Conjuring, and it is the featured cocktail in today's episode. I'm going to start our shaker with ice. To that, we're going to add 1 ounce coconut milk. Next, going to add 1 ounce absinthe. 1 ounce of absinthe. One ounce creme de cacao or creme de cocoa. Either one. Next, we shake. Next, take our glass with ice. We pour our cocktail in. Then we take some black Sambuca and drizzle it around the edge of the glass, like so. Came out a lot quicker than I thought. There you have it, boys and girls. The Conjuring. It's alright. Not really an absinthe or anise fan, but not bad. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the podcast. See ya.
Rhode Island, where this week's movie on the Scary Spirits podcast, The Conjuring, takes place, is known for sandy shores and seaside colonial towns. But if you plan to buy a home in this charming state, you might want to be aware that sellers aren't required to disclose crimes, deaths, or even murders that have occurred on the property. I'd guess that in most cases this isn't an issue, but it's a good lesson. Thoroughly check out any house in any state that you want to purchase, just in case it's the home of a former witch. You never know. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and/or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hi, I'm Greg.
Hey, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different yet highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
Well, Greg, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little annoyed.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
Go on.
Well, we'll get into it in a minute. Surprisingly, it's not even at you.
Oh, really?
No, I know. Shocking. How are you?
I'm a little annoyed as well, Karen.
At me?
A little bit, yeah, Karen.
I think it's going to be about the same thing. Let's just move on.
Are you sure?
Yeah, we'll get into it in a few minutes.
Okay. I know we usually save our thank yous and things like that for the end, Karen, but there's a couple people I want to thank right here at the beginning.
Awesome.
A couple people on our TikTok commented on the Lords of Salem.
Did they now?
Yeah, so I want to give them a big thank you and a little shout out.
All right.
So thank you to Ghost Machine 13, if that is your real name, and Ben Mad Dog Bell. I think that might be another pseudonym. Not sure.
We don't want to guess, but
Yeah, so thanks.
thank you very much.
Karen,
Yes, Greg.
was this your choice of a film?
Yes, it was.
And what film have you chosen for us this week, Karen?
I chose the 2013 The Conjuring.
Any reason you chose that film, Karen?
Yeah, it's not my fault. This is a fan request, a listener request.
I forgot.
Yeah, Kristen in Denver wanted us to do The Conjuring, so we're doing The Conjuring.
Just for you, Kristen in Denver.
Yes.
If
I think that might
real name.
right. I think that might be her real name, but I'm not sure. Maybe not if she listens to this. The podcast, I mean.
Do you have a cocktail for this film, Karen? The Conjuring from 2013.
I do.
And what would that cocktail be, Karen?
Well, I had my creative juices flowing, so I came up with The Conjuring.
Ooh.
Conjuring cocktail. But herein lies...
I think I see what you did there, Karen.
I know. Can you follow me? Herein lies my annoyance.
Oh, okay.
First, I'll tell you how to make it.
Go on.
You're going to pour 1 ounce of absinthe into a shaker filled with ice. Add 1 ounce of creme de cacao and 1 ounce of coconut milk. Give it a shake and pour over ice. And then take some black Sambuca and drizzle around the edge of the glass. Enjoy your terrifyingly delicious drink.
Where'd you find this recipe, Karen?
Discovery.com.
Okay, so use the same one I did. All right. I even remember watching that episode of Josh Gates.
I did not.
Yes, but go on.
You want to talk about black Sambuca, Greg?
We can if you like.
Well, I'm annoyed because at the 7th Ohio liquor store that I went to find this, the guy finally said, I don't think they sell that in Ohio. So each liquor store I went to said, try this other place. They might have it. So I went around, all around the area that I live. And finally, at the last place that someone suggested, they said, yeah, they don't sell that in Ohio. So in my infinite wisdom, I picked a drink that I can't buy the ingredients for. So I apologize.
Why would they not sell it in Ohio?
I don't know. The guy didn't know, but the state controls everything.
It sounds like bullshit to me.
Well, that's what I thought. But 7 different places.
I only had to try 3, Karen.
But 2 were in Ohio, right?
Correct.
And could you find it in those 2?
They did not have it.
Where did you find it?
Kentucky, Karen.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's true or not, but I couldn't find it. And if you are in Ohio and you did find it, I would love to know where. It's supposed to have an anise taste. So I made anise simple syrup and drizzled it in, but
it definitely does have an anise taste.
It doesn't have the same effect because it's not black and it doesn't go to the bottom of the drink and all that cool stuff, which you can see when Greg makes the drink on our YouTube channel, Scary Spirits Podcast.
Yeah. I have to say it kind of fits the film.
If you're not in Ohio.
Yeah. It kind of has that spooky
Conjuring
ghost shadow figure-y kind of look to it because you're supposed to drizzle the black Sambuca around the edges and it sinks slowly. And so there's like streaks of black around the ice cubes and things like that.
The picture looked cool.
Yeah. It's all right. I'm not a fan of anise. Is that what it is?
I think it's anise, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of anise, and I'm not a fan of
absinthe
either. But the creme de cacao and the coconut kind of saves it for me.
Yeah, it's a little black licorice-y.
It is.
Which I
Very
do
black
like.
Licorice-y.
I like it. Just like I like ouzo. Has the same kind of taste, but
it's not like Jägermeister black licorice, which I like.
Nothing is, Greg.
It's different. That's all right. We may have that for our next drink, Karen. Some little Jägermeister. We'll see.
I don't think I even have that.
I'm sure they sell it in Ohio, Karen.
I bet they do.
I believe you will be able to find it. No problem.
So I apologize to anyone who went on the same scavenger hunt that I did.
So that was why you're annoyed, Karen?
Yes. Do we have to wait and see why you're annoyed? It has nothing to do with the drink. I thought it was the absinthe, but it's not.
It's not. It's not the drink, Karen. No,
Oh.
no, it is not.
All right. Well, we'll wait.
Did you forget our second anniversary, Karen?
Didn't we talk about it?
No, I don't believe we did, Karen.
Oh.
I did not get a card. I did not get a gift.
Neither did I.
I know. I was waiting to see if you remembered. But that's okay. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
I'll be okay.
Was that last week?
I think it was 2 weeks ago, actually.
Oh. Good, you're bringing it up now.
I am bringing it up now.
You saved it.
Yeah, because I just been letting it boil inside you, Karen.
Yeah. Waiting for me to do something wrong so you could throw it out there. And another thing.
It was the Shadow of the Vampire episode would have been our second anniversary. You know, the episode right around Ball Purge is knocked, Karen.
Oh, yes. Hopefully you'll forgive me.
I already have, Karen. I've been carrying it with me so long, I've let it go already. Just wanted to bring it up.
It only hurts you when you carry it around like that.
True. All right, should we give our friends and listeners time to make their own The Conjuring cocktail if they can find black Sambuca wherever they live?
Yep, go for it.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Karen, might you have a brief synopsis of this film you chose for us to watch?
That Kristen chose?
Oh, yes, Kristen. Sorry.
I do.
Go on. Tell me a story.
In 1970, paranormal investigators and demonologists Lorraine and Ed Warren are summoned to the home of Carolyn and Roger Perron. The Perrons and their 5 daughters have recently moved into a secluded farmhouse where a supernatural presence has made itself known. Though the manifestations are relatively benign at first, events soon escalate in horrifying fashion, especially after the Warrens discover the house's macabre history.
Thank you, Karen. We are a match.
Yay. In our annoyance and our plot summaries. Excellent.
Right, Karen, are you ready to get into it?
Yes, I did watch it on Amazon. Did you?
I did as well. Rated 13 plus, but no other warnings.
Yeah, I didn't see any.
Movie starts, Karen, and we see Annabelle, which I was kind of surprised. I assume you haven't seen this film before, Karen.
This one or Annabelle. Have not seen either.
Okay. So the film opens, and first I was like, shit, am I watching the wrong damn movie?
I did too.
But apparently we're doing a little backstory on the Warrens, right?
Yes.
We're going back to like 1968.
I was wondering if they were are these the same producers that produced Annabelle? Because didn't that come out after this?
It did.
And I was wondering
Annabelle is the sequel. Yeah. A sequel.
Setting it up.
There's also The Conjuring 2, I believe, but Annabelle is a sequel as well. Yeah, I have something to say about that later. Apparently 2 nurses have a possessed doll.
Well, the scene is there's 3 kids, look like college students to me, but nurses sitting on a couch, and across from them is Ed. Are they both there? Is Lorraine there too?
Yeah, I believe so.
So they're interviewing them, and the girls I think it is the girls' apartment. I don't know what the third person sitting there was doing. Maybe it was a boyfriend. I think it was a man.
Yes, it was.
But they're talking about, it started off small. Just look, the doll would just move its legs or arms. And then it started moving into different rooms. And they called in a medium, right, to talk to the doll. The nurses did. And the medium told them it was a 7-year-old who had died named Annabelle. The nurses told the spirit, go ahead and inhabit the doll. We'll take care of you. Never do that.
No.
Never, ever, ever.
Not a good idea.
No.
But the doll, like, they come home one day and the doll's been writing all over the wall, right? In crayon.
Did they tell the Warrens that?
Yes.
Do they just let the Warrens just leave and don't help them? Or is it like just that night or something?
Or they're giving a backstory.
Oh, okay.
What had happened, right? Because they came home and the doll had written all over the walls and all this shit, and then they threw it in the dumpster. And
the nurses were out having a good time, and it's like the little girl and the doll got pissed or something. Yes. Miss me ? And yeah, it had crayons and drew all over the apartment with them.
Yeah, so they pitched it in a dumpster.
Yeah, and put the lid down.
Yes. But it came back, Karen.
Yes, it did.
So I think that's what happened. And then I assume Ed and Lorraine take the doll from them.
Oh, you're right. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, they're just telling the story of what happened to the Warrens. So it is a flashback. And then they say, can you help us? And the Warrens say, yes, we can. And they take the doll.
Then we cut to the Warrens giving a lecture.
About that actual event.
Right.
Annabelle.
Then we have words to read, Karen. Since 1960s, Ed and Lorraine Warren have been known as the world's most renowned paranormal investigators. Lorraine is a gifted clairvoyant, while Ed is the only non-ordained demonologist recognized by the Catholic Church. Out of the thousands of cases throughout their controversial careers, there is one case so malevolent they've kept it locked away until now, based on a true story. And I wrote, we have no credits, Karen. No credits.
No, none. I do have a little bit about Ed and Lorraine, a little more than that, but not much. Ed was a self-taught demonologist, and Lorraine was a clairvoyant and a light trance medium. They founded the New England Society for Psychic Research, the oldest ghost hunting group in New England. They authored many books about the paranormal and about their private investigations into various reports of paranormal activity. They claim to have investigated well over 10,000 cases during their careers. Just a little. I think we should do a whole Wicked Ramblings on them.
Was a TV show on, I think it was Travel Channel, all about their investigations.
And like you said, and the film does say they were very controversial.
And we have more words to read, Karen. 1971, Harrisville, Rhode Island. You remember 1971, Karen?
Probably.
Apparently there's a family moving into a new house from New Jersey. I guess it's the Perrons. Is that how you say their name? Perron?
That's how I said it.
Sounds right. They have 5 girls, don't they?
5 daughters.
And a dog who does not want to go into the house, Karen.
Do you want to know what kind of dog that is?
It looked like a is it a border collie?
It kind of looks like a border collie and an Australian shepherd kind of mixed together.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Sadie.
It is.
And it's an English shepherd, which is not recognized by the AKC, the American Kennel Club. But it's an energetic, intelligent, very active, agile, courageous, and gritty. Fearless for its purpose. Acting immediately when commanded, very responsive to the master's voice, adapting themselves almost at once to working commands around the farm stock. It was a farm dog. They also said it had the nickname of being a shadow dog because as a pet, it really liked to be with its family. But this dog is very smart. It does not want to go in that house.
And we hear the song Time of the Season by the Zombies, Karen.
Yes, I said 70s music plays. And the house looks like a fixer-upper.
It does. And we see April apparently has found a music box. She's out by a big tree by the pond or lake or wherever the hell it is.
Yeah, that tree is really cool looking. I don't know if they built that tree or found that tree, but it looks like an evil tree. And there's water. I would guess a lake.
And we cut to the girls and they're playing hide and clap.
That's what they call it.
I'm not familiar with, but
I'm not either.
basically hide and seek.
But whoever's it is blindfolded, and they can ask the people who are hiding to clap 3 different times. So they can say first clap, and you have to clap twice, and then they go in whichever direction. They follow the claps to try to find the person.
Similar to Marco Polo, right?
Yeah.
In the pool.
But you don't move, I don't think.
No. Anyway, they find a cellar that has been boarded up.
One of the girls is hiding in a closet, and then when she's found, she struggles and knocks a board loose. And then they find that the cellar's been boarded up. Dad
goes down to investigate with a match, Karen. I wrote,
Yes.
Why don't they have a flashlight?
I said, I think I'd get a flashlight. His name is Roger, and he's going into the basement, the cellar, they call it.
He goes down. There's lots of old shit in there. And cut to that evening, I guess, and Sadie is outside barking, tied up. She won't come in the house.
Yeah, so the husband put her on a chain. He says she'll be fine.
And they all go to bed, Karen.
The parents christen the house, though. They say they're going to christen the house.
That's what they say. That is what they say.
Lovey-dovey parents, even with 5 girls.
Next morning, Mom wakes up and she's got bruises. And apparently the clock stopped at 3:07 a.m. Dad is in the cellar checking it out. He has a flashlight this time.
Yeah, and he's putting light bulbs in the swinging light fixtures.
And April goes out to see Sadie.
Because she misses her.
And Sadie's gone. She gone.
Well, she's there, but she's gone, which I was mad.
I knew you would.
I'm like, they killed the dog already. I can't turn it off.
We have more words. Monroe, Connecticut. The Warrens' home. See, Ed's showing someone all the items he has collected that are possessed. He has a room of possessed items, apparently.
Or cursed objects, too. Haunted or cursed. It might be I think it's a reporter.
That's
we
what I
find
wrote.
out. Yeah.
And we see the Annabelle doll in a glass case. And I wrote, it must be a reporter. He has a tape recorder.
And the reporter is interested in the Annabelle doll. He kind of asks about it specifically and kind of goes over to the case.
Then Ed finds his daughter Judy in the room, makes her leave, tells her, now, you're not never, ever to come in here.
He does say something interesting. He does say it's safer to have the things in the room than out, about. And the reporter says, why not just burn them? And Ed says that would only destroy the vessels, not what's inhabiting it. So it's better to keep the genie in the bottle. And so he says, well, aren't you worried about them affecting you? But they have a priest come once a month and bless the room.
And again, we see a clock, I believe, stopped at 3:07.
We're back at the Perrons' house.
Perron's house. And we see TV snow, Karen. What'd you call it?
Ant races.
Ant races. The end of the broadcast day, I wrote. Dad, Roger, right, is working at his desk. He hears knocking. He goes to investigate the noises. Apparently, Cindy is sleepwalking. Apparently, it's what she does. But she's banging her head against a wardrobe. And Cindy is
yes.
she's like next to the youngest, I think.
Yes. Right before that happens, though, one of the girls is sleeping and someone's pulling her foot.
It would be Christine.
And she thinks Nancy's pulling her leg, literally, and says, stop farting, because it really stinks in the room. So they blame each other for that. And then we go to the dad and them finding the girl banging her head against the armoire. It's the next morning, and Carolyn's getting out of the shower, and Roger says, you have another bruise on your back. You better go to the doctor. And she says she will. And then she sends the kids off to school. They're walking down the driveway to the bus. So now it's just Mom and April. Carolyn comes up in the room, and April's talking to someone, but there's no one there. And April says it's Rory, her new friend, and asks Carolyn, do you want to see Rory, my new friend? So she has to look in the music box And when the music stops playing, he's standing behind you. So she opens the music box and it has like a hypnotic swirl in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it spins. Yeah. On the mirror. And then it kind of spins.
Mm-hmm.
So she's looking, but she doesn't see anyone.
And she wants to play hide and clap with Mom.
Because the older girls never let her play. So the mom agrees to do it.
So April goes to hide. Mom is blindfolded. And she's looking for April, and she says, clap. First clap. You get 3 claps, apparently. And she hears the noise coming from, I guess, the bedroom with the armoire, as you said, Karen, in it.
Yes.
And as she's in there blindfolded, it opens. The armoire opens. And she asks for another clap, and we see hands coming out of the armoire clapping. Right?
What would you call it?
A wardrobe. That's what I called it.
All right. You could say it's a wardrobe if it's going to.
Armoire is probably a better term for it.
No, it could be a wardrobe also. So
then April comes into the room, and we find out she was in a different room. She wasn't in the armoire or wardrobe. So Mom's kind of freaking out and
looking inside. Yeah. Moving the clothes.
Yeah.
Because she knows she heard claps in there.
But
April comes up, like you said, startles her because she thinks she's in the armoire, but she's not. And there were definitely hands in there and claps happening and giggles.
Yeah. Then we learn that apparently Dad is a owner-operator of a semi-truck, and he takes a job driving to Florida. So he's going to be out of the house for a little while, Karen.
It's going to take a week, and it doesn't pay well, but he needs to take it.
All right, cut back to, I guess, that night. And again, Christine has her feet grabbed while sleeping, and she kind of realizes this time that it's not Nancy. So she looks under the bed, and as she's looking under the bed, the bedroom door opens.
I thought that was a cool shot because everything was upside down. They do that quite a bit in this movie, which is, I think they use it effectively.
And I guess Christine sees something behind the door, but Nancy can't.
Yeah, but Christine is wigging out.
Yeah, and then the door slams, and Christine screams. Mom and Dad come running.
Because Dad just happens to get home. But there's a line in there where Nancy goes over to the door and looks, because Christine says it's looking right at us. Nancy goes and stands there, and then Christine says, "It's right behind you."
Yeah.
Which was pretty creepy. And then the door slams and they start screaming, right?
Yeah. Christine says that whatever it was told her that it wants their family dead.
But Dad just happens to get home at that exact moment.
Right at that time.
He's walking in, and there's just everybody screaming. And he tells her it was just a bad dream, but she's really upset.
Then we cut to the Warrens during an investigation, and they kind of debunk what they're investigating as water pipes in the attic.
Well, yeah, and Ed tries to go off on his own. He tells Lorraine that he just has a few errands to run and pick up, and she says, "You can't lie to me. You haven't been able to lie to me in 15 years. Why are you trying?" And he's trying to do something without her. And they talk about their wedding night. And, he told her that God brought us together for a reason. But he's trying to make her not go with them because something happened. We don't know what it is to Lorraine at one of the investigations they did. But she insists on going, and they both go. And then they debunk something. So what they're trying to show in the movie, I think, is that everything they do, they don't say is some type of possession.
Yeah, they have some credibility.
Yes. They're telling them most of the things that they investigate have a logical explanation.
We cut back to the Perrons, and Mom has more bruises. And she's taking iron supplements?
Yes, because she bruises easily. If you don't have enough iron, you can bruise easily.
There's a song about sleepwalking playing in the background, and Mom hears clapping. She thinks the girls are playing that hide and clap game.
She's folding laundry, and that song is on the radio. So she turns off the radio and hears the clap again, and she yells, "It's way too late." for you all to be playing the clap and seek or whatever, that game. And she's folding laundry at 3 a.m. because it's 3:07 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's way too late for them to be playing that, but it's way too late to be folding laundry. I would wait. I would say that can wait till the morning, but she was awake.
She checks on the girls and they all appear to be asleep. There's loud crash and laughter, and the pictures of the girls fall off the wall in their staircase.
Which doesn't wake anyone up.
But Mom investigates. Clock strikes 3. Cellar door opens. Mom goes down to the cellar. The door slams on her, knocking her down the stairs, Karen.
Yep.
She's sitting down there for a second, and then a ball comes bouncing out of the darkness, basically. Light bulb explodes, laughing, hide and clap, Mom locked in the cellar. That's what I wrote.
She's screaming for Andrea, and a child laughs in the basement. And then she does get up the stairs and she lights a match to see if anyone's following her. She strikes another match and somebody says, "Want to play hide and clap?" And it's claps behind her.
Yeah, and we see the hands again.
Yes. And
right
then
behind her, coming out of the darkness.
She's locked in the closet. And then there's again thumping, which is, we cut to
Cindy banging her head against the wardrobe again, or the armoire. And Andrea puts her in her bed. So this is Andrea's room, I guess, where the armoire is.
Yes. So there's 5 girls. Andrea has her own room, and I think the 2 other girls share.
Christine and Nancy.
Yes, the 4 others each share a room.
And Cindy and April.
Yes.
So Andrea puts her in her bed. The banging continues. And we see a figure on top of the wardrobe, Karen, or the armoire.
See, it was very dark, and I couldn't tell if there was something actually there or not.
There was.
Was it the witch?
You didn't watch this in the dark, Karen? You didn't have all the lights off watching this?
It was daytime. And the room where I watch it is very well lit. Yes. Okay. But so there was someone up there.
And once again, Dad arrives at home just as everyone in the house is screaming.
That would have been enough for me if I saw that. But did they see it? Or was it just there? You know what I mean? Like, did they sense it was there? Did they actually see?
I think they saw it.
But if
I think Andrea saw it.
Okay. Cindy sits up in the bed like Nosferatu coming out of his coffin when Andrea gets close to.
Right, she does.
It's funny.
Then we have words to read again, Karen. Massachusetts Western University. Wakefield, Mass, I guess. And the Warrens are giving a lecture again, showing movies.
Yes, showing an exorcism.
They talk about the 3 stages of demonic activity.
After they show the exorcism that they worked on, which is Maurice, who was abused, and he's crying blood, and an upside down cross appears underneath his skin and all this stuff. They cut that, and he goes to the 3 stages of demonic activity.
Infestation, oppression, and then finally possession, Karen.
Infestation is the whispering, the footsteps, the feeling of another presence, which grows into the 2nd stage of oppression. This is where the victim is the one who is most psychologically vulnerable, is targeted specifically by an external force, breaks the victim down, crushes their will, and once in a weakened state, leads them to the final stage, possession. So if you would like to know the signs of demonic possession or invasion, using languages unknown to the person or people around them, having extraordinary strength or resistance to physical restraint, knowledge of events or people that the person could not possibly have known, an aversion to holy objects or places, such as holy water or churches.
I have that, Karen.
So I'm not going to comment. Self-harming and displaying violent or aggressive behavior, ailments or conditions that cannot be diagnosed or treated medically, having hallucinations or hearing voices, or an abrupt change in behavior or personality. I don't know if you need all of those, or just one or two?
Well, I only got one, so I'm fine.
Yeah, you might have one or two, but I think you have to have a majority of those, is what I'm going to say.
So then, of course, they ask if anyone has any questions, and every hand in the place goes up.
Yes, which as a professor, that's a successful lecture.
Yes.
If people have questions at the end.
And we see Carolyn is at the lecture. So as Ed and Lorraine are leaving, Carolyn comes out to the parking lot and asks them to come and take a look at the house. At first, they are resistant, but, she pleads with them and they agree.
She says to Lorraine, I have 5 daughters. You have a daughter, don't you? Wouldn't you do anything to help your daughter? Guilts them into it, but they agree.
Next, we cut to the Brady Bunch on TV, Karen.
Yes, it's the one where Jan wears a wig.
Isn't it like an afro wig or something?
Yeah, it's
Curly
a black
wig?
It's a black, kind of curly black, short wig. Yeah.
Right. Kind of like a Joyce DeWitt wig.
No, it's big. It's got some volume.
Okay. You said it was short.
But it is short. It is kind of like Afro-esque because it comes out far.
Okay. All right. And Ed and Lorraine arrive at the house. And we learn that they're all sleeping in the living room now because, they can't sleep upstairs. And Carolyn and Roger tell Ed and Lorraine about all the things that are happening. Lorraine wants to see the cellar.
Well, wait, there are a couple things. So there's the awful smell, they tell them. And there's also the doors that they had to tie together because otherwise they'd bang all night long if you don't tie them up. Ed asks if the banging stops at dawn and if it comes in threes. And Roger says yes. And Ed says that's an insult to the Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, or Holy Spirit, I think he says. They also talk about the birds flying against the house and breaking their necks, and the clocks all stop at 3:07 a.m., and the pictures keep getting knocked off the walls. And that's when Lorraine says she wants to see the cellar.
When she's down there, she's a clairvoyant, as we said earlier, and she begins picking up on something awful that happened in the past. Ed then begins conducting an interview using a cassette tape, Karen.
Yes, he does.
A cassette recorder.
They do notice Carolyn's bruises, and she explains it as an iron deficiency.
And Ed says it's November 1st, 1971. So it's the day after Halloween, Karen. They didn't even mention Halloween.
No,
Did they
didn't.
go trick-or-treating?
Well, they're
What were their
not
costumes.
they're not near anyone.
Did they bob for apples?
But there's an interesting, right before he says that, not as interesting as Halloween, of course, but why haven't they moved out? And I think one of Ed might have asked him, or I don't know how they brought it up, but they said, and you think, yeah, why haven't you moved out? And Roger says, well, they don't have the money to leave. And he makes a good point because all their money's wrapped up in the house. Who's going to take a family of 7 in indefinitely? Like, he's got a huge family. You can't just live with someone else. So that's why they haven't left, which is your first thought when you are watching something or listening to something like this. Well, just frickin' leave, don't stay there. But then they explain in a while why you don't want to do that anyway. But that's why they haven't left yet.
Lorraine talks to April and learns about Rory, her imaginary friend, right?
Yes.
In the music box. And Lorraine does it, and she sees a boy in the mirror behind her.
Yes, she does.
So then Lorraine goes out into the yard and sees a girl hanging from the tree.
I think it's a woman, isn't it?
She's wearing a nightgown. That's all I know. That's all
Yes.
we see is the bottom of a nightgown and her feet. Then we learn that Carolyn and Roger bought the house at an auction.
So they bought the house in an auction, and they don't know anything about the people.
Sight unseen.
Yeah. So it's interesting. The state of Rhode Island does not legally require the seller of a home to inform the buyer of the existence of a supernatural presence, nor does it require them to disclose any paranormal events that have taken place on the property. So I kind of looked it up. I looked up a contract, and there's a general disclaimer in a housing contract, real estate. Neither the seller nor listing licenses has the legal duty to discuss issues of psychological impact, including but not limited to homicides, felonies, and suicides on or near the property. If these and other topics, including information about schools, crimes, and the presence of convicted felons in the neighborhood, are relevant to the buyer's decision to purchase this property, the buyer may wish to investigate further. So
It's on the buyer.
It's totally on the buyer to find out anything that might have happened in the house.
As it should be.
Sort of, but if you're not from the area,
So?
That's a lot of work.
Have you heard of Google, Karen?
Well, it's easier now, but Google wasn't around in 1970.
That's true. They didn't have the...
It's much easier now.
Yeah,
Certainly.
You couldn't look up all the sex offenders living in your neighborhood like you can now.
Right. You could use the microfiche and look up newspaper articles, but now you could find everything, because if something happened like that in a house, you would find it on Google, because there's all those sites of people who collect that information. 1970, it wasn't around. So
71, Karen, but yes,
sorry,
true.
71. So yeah, you're on your own. So there's nobody legally had to tell them anything.
And then Lorraine tells them that the dark entity has attached itself to the family, so leaving the house will not help them anyway. They tell them they have to investigate and produce evidence before the church will conduct an exorcism, Karen. The Catholic Church needs evidence. They need proof. And the Warrens are going to do some research to find out the history of the property.
So is this where she says she saw it around each of them, the black entity?
Yes, when she entered. As soon as she entered, she saw it behind Roger, and then she saw it behind the girls. And
somewhere else. I can't remember, but
and we have flashbacks to what we've already seen. And she does react. I do remember thinking, why is she looking at him like that?
She did. And she did look crazily at the girls too. But she said, who are these lovely ladies? So I thought I kind of imagined it, but Ed does ask if the girls are baptized. And Roger says, no, we never got around to that. And we're not churchgoers. So are you baptized?
No, I am not, Karen.
Really?
Really.
Okay, good to know.
My mother and father wanted to leave that to me, my decision.
Interesting. Let's put that in your demonic file. Not baptized. Okay.
Then we see Lorraine with her daughter, Judy. I guess they're back home. And Judy gives Lorraine a locket with a picture of herself in it, of her in it, Judy in it. She says that she misses them, and this will make them feel closer, because she has a locket, identical locket with pictures of her mother and father in it, right?
Yes, so they can always be together. And it seems...
It's kind of like that little heart charm that's like broken in two that you can, give to your...
But this one has pictures.
Boyfriend or girlfriend. And
well, maybe that's what I should get you for our 2-year anniversary, a picture of me in a locket. That would be awesome. It kind of implies that the Warrens are away from home a lot. She spends a lot of time with her grandmother, Judy does.
Right.
And I just wondered if Judy wrote a book about how they were never around and they threw this in there. Because I don't really know why we need to see this.
I have, like I said, I've seen programs about the Warrens, and I have seen Judy and Judy's husband in these programs, because I guess once they got older, they kind of assisted and helped.
Okay, so
investigations.
There isn't a mommy dearest type of...
No.
Okay. Because it just seemed like it was placating the, we know we're not around kind of parent thing. But I don't really know why we needed to see that. I guess later it does come into play a little bit.
I was a latchkey kid, Karen. Put that in my file too, I guess.
Did you buy your mom a locket with your picture in it so you could be together?
No.
Well,
she did have a charm. Have a charm. And those little school pictures, we used to get little charms back in the day, right? With our picture on it.
Yes, I just found those not too long ago. Mine is stellar. Beauty.
It'll look a lot like your Facebook profile picture, Karen, right now.
No, because I had very long hair and I just brushed the top of it. So underneath it was this huge rat's nest of hair. And I just brushed the top so it looked nice. So it looked like it had a lot of volume. Anyway.
So then we see the Warrens, and apparently they have found all the history of the fucking house, Karen.
Yeah.
They can trace it all the way back to the Salem witch trials. And there were lots of suicides apparently associated with the house and the surrounding area. And Ed's listened to the tape recording he took, the interviews, and
Well, wait, stop for one. It was built in 1863 by Judson Sherman, who married a woman named Bathsheba. So I have a bunch
that's never good.
Bathsheba got a bad rap. She was in the Bible.
Yeah, I don't even know who she was, but I knew it was a
King David
name.
King David saw her bathing.
Oh, yeah.
And lied with her, even though she was married and he was married. So, and then he had her husband killed in battle.
He lied with her?
Yes.
Okay.
Because she got pregnant, he got her husband killed in battle. I think he killed the baby or something, and then they had more kids. But that's not important. But I do have some information about her and the house that I'm going to talk about at the end. But basically, when Bathsheba had a baby, the baby was 7 days old. It says Judson caught her sacrificing it in front of the fireplace. And she went out to the tree by the dock, climbed up, proclaimed her love to Satan, cursed anyone who tried to take her land, and hung herself to death. And she was pronounced dead at 3:07 in the morning.
Then the tape recorder starts playing on its own, Karen. And there's lots of strange noises on it this time that weren't there prior.
I interrupted you. I didn't think I'd let you say that when he shows her the tape recording, Carolyn's voice is not recorded on it. So Ed comes in and says, listen to this, to Lorraine, and Carolyn's voice shows up, not at all. And then when they talk about all these things.
Is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
Because all he says is there's nothing there.
Just his voice.
Okay.
So they go over all this information.
I thought they might have been hoping to catch,
all you hear is him asking questions and nothing. And we know she answered because we watched that interview, and nothing happens. Or it's silent. But then when they go over all of this information about the house.
I thought he was listening for EVPs or something.
No, not that. When it turns on. So it turns on by itself. So does that mean an entity followed them home? Because the tape recorder turns on itself and then they hear screams and moaning and.
Yeah. And their clock stops at 3:07.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're kind of led to believe that it's fucking with them too, right?
Yeah, because after Lorraine talks about there's a bunch of other people. There's a boy that disappeared in the woods. There's a woman who committed suicide. And we kind of meet all these people later. But he hears static and moaning. Yes. Hey, you're already halfway through the podcast. What do you think? If you like what you hear, can you take a minute and follow us on social media? At Scary Spirits Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Thanks so much for listening. Now let's get back to the show.
So then the Warrens arrive back at the Perron house, and they arrive with Drew and Brad. Drew is another paranormal investigator.
I think
Brad is a cop.
Yeah, Drew is like a grad student or something. He seems like a student.
Yeah, he begins setting up the cameras and in the house and hanging bells from the doorknobs and things like that, so they'll hear things and see things.
Cameras, microphones.
And then in a minute here we see Drew and Andrea. A love connection, ? Karen, I wrote.
He's showing off and showing her the UV light and how it can show handprints or footprints, which I didn't know it could do that.
Then Ed places crosses throughout the house, hoping to piss off the spirits. Then the cellar door opens. Ed and Lorraine head down to the cellar while Brad films.
So did Brad just volunteer? He's a police officer, but why is he there? To make sure he's doing everything legally? Or
he's not in uniform at this point.
And he's a non-believer. They do mention that.
So while they're down there filming, nothing happens. I did write they give up pretty quickly. They're not down there very long, it doesn't seem. And they go back upstairs, and then the cellar door slams shut.
Lorraine's getting sick down there, isn't she? And they leave the lights off, but the camera has that blinding light on top of it that my mom used to put on in every movie of us she took. We're all squinting.
Yeah, and this part is kind of like, for lack of a better word, found footage. It's like we're supposed to believe this is the film that Brad made, right?
Yes.
So then the next morning, I guess they're all having breakfast.
Yeah, and everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy. Family feels much better now that the Warrens are there. And I wrote, Ed and Lorraine seem to be enjoying their time in the country. They're thinking about buying a house out there, Karen.
Yeah, even though all this horrible stuff's happening.
There's a storm coming, Karen.
Yeah, Lorraine's out in the backyard. So Carolyn is very tired. So they say, why don't you go take a nap? We'll help out around the house. We'll help, take care of things.
They just like fucking move in and start,
Yeah, so
doing
Lorraine's
all kinds of shit.
taking laundry off the line. That's why she's out there, because Carolyn's upstairs sleeping. And the storm rolls in very quickly. And the wind chimes start. So when they first move in, one of the girls hangs her wind chime out on the back porch, and that starts to jingle. And then the winds pick up and the dark clouds are coming. So Lorraine's trying to hurry up and take the laundry down. That was a cool thing where a sheet blows off.
Yes, a sheet blows off the line onto a unseen figure. So we see the outline of a person.
Like the Invisible Man, yes.
And then it blows up to the window where Carolyn is sleeping and Lorraine sees a figure in the window.
And she runs.
I don't know why she doesn't think, well, that's just Carolyn, but she
because
doesn't.
It doesn't look like Carolyn. It's a pale person in a nightgown with dark hair.
So she runs in and finds a Carolyn asleep in the room. But she has bruises on her arms and there's an entity hovering above her. Now, this is what we see.
Before Lorraine gets there.
Right.
There's an entity above Carolyn. And when Carolyn screams, I called it a witch, spits something in her mouth, which is pretty gross. And then I think Carolyn starts to vomit.
Next, we see Ed has apparently started fixing up the 57 Chevy.
Yeah, because they're going to do...
He went out and bought a whole fucking engine or some shit, didn't he say?
No, I think it's the carburetor.
Okay, well, whatever. He's bought parts to fix this car for Roger, who he just met, but whatever.
They're moving in, doing the laundry, fixing the car.
Yeah, Ed tells Roger about Lorraine being harmed in a previous investigation. So we get a little backstory here.
Something happened during an exorcism, and she won't talk about it. And they went home, and she went in her room and didn't come out for 8 days. And Roger says, well, what happened? And Ed says, I don't know, and I don't ask. Right. Which I thought was a little weird. But then it's nighttime, yes.
And Brad the cop is hearing voices. He sees a figure with slit wrists and goes to investigate. And cameras start going off in the other room as if someone walks by. And we see it's Cindy sleepwalking again. But Ed tells them there's something with her.
Because she's not triggering the cameras. And
yeah,
Roger
the cameras are triggered by temperature change. It has to be cold for the camera to go off, is what I think he says.
Yeah, temperature drop, yeah. Because they're setting up a camera out at the creepy tree. And Roger's like, why? He wants to know how it works and why he's setting up there.
Then Cindy goes into her room and the door slams. And of course, they have recording equipment in there. And Drew says he hears another voice in the room with Cindy. So they go up to the room and go in and they find Cindy is missing.
Yeah, the voice is saying, follow me this way. This is where I hide when I'm afraid. So they hear that. And then they go in and they can't find Cindy. So yeah, she's
not in the fucking room. She's not in the room. I didn't make a note, but Roger seems very calm for a father whose child is missing. Just walked into this room and now she's gone. She gone.
I thought he was a little upset.
No,
He's
not
like,
enough.
Where is she? He's saying, where is she? Where is she?
He's not upset enough, I didn't think. So they get the ultraviolet light and trace footsteps to the armoire. And they find a secret door in the armoire. And they find Cindy in between the walls there. Then April tells them, oh, That's where Rory goes and hides.
Yes, when he's afraid.
So Lorraine goes in to investigate.
Well, who was in there, Cindy? They wrapped Cindy in an Afghan like my grandma used to make. Were very popular in the 70s. The brown and yellow and orange ones. Some people will know what I mean. So Lorraine crawls in there.
And all there's in there is toys and cobwebs, I wrote.
That's what I said. And a spot that used to be hold something, because there's a spot in the dust, and it's April's music box that fits perfectly on there.
Yes, it's a hexagonal shaped spot.
Yes. So they find where the music box came from.
Then she finds a rope
and pulls it
up
of course
between the walls, and it's tied similar. It's not a noose, but it's tied similar.
Oh, I thought it was a noose.
No, it's not a noose, but
is it supposed to be?
I don't know, but it's not. But it's got a loop in it at the end. Then all of a sudden, Lorraine falls through the floor and into the basement, ? I wrote.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out. She falls multiple stories.
She's on the top floor, so she would have fallen probably 3 floors.
Yeah, it's a violent fall, but she seems okay. I thought maybe was she in the basement, but then maybe the crawl space under the house. You think she ended up in instead of the basement? But I don't know how.
The cellar.
Oh, okay.
And she still has the music box with her.
Because Ed's pounding on the walls looking for her, yelling for her. That's why I didn't know. You'd think that she would hear him in the basement.
So she plays the music box, and in the mirror, she sees one of the previous owners in the reflection. And
I thought that was brave. I wouldn't have done that.
The spirit says, she made me do it. Then we see another hanging girl, nightgown with feet.
Yep.
And it goes after Lorraine. And Lorraine runs and comes up from the cellar. And in the process, she loses the locket.
I think it's the witch.
No, it's Rory's mother.
Oh.
The hanging girl is the witch. So I don't know which one you're talking about. Because she sees Rory's mother.
Yes. But then she sees the witch.
Yeah.
And then she figures out what's happening. Because she comes up screaming.
She tells them all that the bruise marks on Carolyn is the entity feeding off of her. The spirit possesses the mother to kill the child.
And she visits Carolyn every night, which is gross. But that's what the bruises are. She's feeding off you, like you said.
Then all of a sudden, Nancy's hair starts to rise in the air, and she is thrown about the room.
After all the crucifixes are knocked over and out of their places. Yeah, so the only way to save Nancy is Lorraine cuts her hair.
So Ed tells him, well, apparently they got that shit on film. Drew was filming the whole time.
Yes.
And Ed says they're going to take the film, get the film developed. Because that's what you had to do back in 1971, boys and girls. You had to send it off to be developed.
They probably rushed it.
And then they're going to send it to the church.
I think they're just going to take it there themselves. Because that's what they end up doing.
And the family leaves the house. Even though they already said that wouldn't make a difference. So whatever. They leave anyway. And Lorraine hears mommy, someone calling her mommy.
Judy's voice.
House. She goes to the dock and sees Judy under the water wearing her locket. So she runs into the house and calls back home to be sure Judy is okay. And they all go to a motel. The family.
And Lorraine's insistent to Ed that was a warning to her. The vision she saw in the water.
So then we see Ed showing the film to the priest.
Who says it's complicated because the kids aren't baptized and the families aren't members of the church. And you have to get approval directly from the Vatican. But he's impressed with the film. He says you weren't kidding about how serious it was. Because Ed's like, we've never seen anything like this before.
And the priest does agree to push the request through. So then we cut back to the Warrens' house and Judy is sleeping. Her locket hanging by her bed and it starts spinning.
It's a stormy night, too.
And she goes looking for her parents. And I wrote it's a nice shot of her looking for her parents up the stairs. And she's in the hall and stuff.
Yeah, because lightning strikes, so it lights her up. And then it's dark. So it was very cool, that shot.
And we get a shot of Annabelle missing, like her case is empty in the artifact room. And we see Annabelle in the rocking chair in Judy's room.
With someone, right? Rocking the doll. There's
it looked like
the
someone was holding
back of their head, yeah.
We never saw, though. But
No.
the doll's head does turn and look at Judy.
Yeah.
And Ed and Lorraine arrive home as Judy is screaming. Ed gets the door open just as the rocking chair slams into the wall where Judy was. Judy tells Ed and Lorraine that she saw Annabelle. So Ed goes down to the artifact room and finds Annabelle still locked in her case. So then Roger arrives back at the hotel, I guess with groceries. That's why he's gone grocery shopping or some shit. Snacks. And the girls tell him, Mom left and took Christine and April in the car. They just left. They didn't say anything. They just left.
And she smelled like rotten meat.
Smelled like rotten meat.
But they didn't know where she was going.
So Roger calls Ed and Lorraine. They tell Roger to go back to the house because that is where Carolyn is taking the two girls. So the Warrens and Brad the cop, dressed as a cop this time, arrive at the home. The door's locked. They can't get in. Brad pulls his shotgun and shoots the lock. They get in. Carolyn is in the cellar with scissors trying to stab Christine.
They were big-ass scissors, and I noticed them earlier when Drew was using them. And I didn't make a note of it, but I thought, I wonder if those are going to come back and play, because they look like they're about 8-inch scissors, sewing scissors probably.
So they all grab Carolyn. I think Roger's already there, and he's already on her. But they all grab Carolyn and take the scissors from her.
But it's hard. She's got some super strength going.
And they try to take her out of the house, but then bruises and ligature marks begin to appear on Carolyn's body and around her neck.
Yeah, and Lorraine says it won't let her leave the house. It'll kill her if we take her out of the house. And then she's thrown backwards into the house. And Carolyn's still in there because she screams for Roger.
So they all go down to the cellar and struggle some more. They grab a rope and handcuffs and tie Carolyn to a chair. Ed tells Lorraine to leave, and he's going to do the exorcism himself.
And they can't find April. So Drew is actually looking for April. The rest of them are downstairs fighting with Carolyn.
And Lorraine runs out to go get the book. The book, Karen.
They covered her in a sheet. Lorraine covers her in a sheet right before they put her on the chair. So she's covered in a sheet. Yes, and Lorraine goes to get the book. Also, Ed wants Lorraine to leave. And Lorraine tells him, no, you can do the exorcism. And she says, God brought us together for a reason. And she says, this is it. And she goes to get the book.
So she comes back with the book. Ed begins performing the exorcism, speaking in Latin, Karen.
Mm-hmm.
I recognized a Satani or something there in Latin. But
and he's splashing holy water.
Make a note of anything he said, Karen.
We're moving right along. He's speaking in Latin and splashing holy water on her.
Yeah, he throws holy water on Carolyn, and she does not like that one bit, I wrote, Karen.
No, she does not. Roger put Christine in the car and said, don't get out no matter what.
And a bird crashes into the car.
And then a ton of birds start crashing into the house.
Drew's still looking for April. Yep, Drew is still looking for April. And I wrote crows because they're cawing like crows.
Yes,
but the ones who die don't look like crows. They look like pigeons.
Yes, so they sound like crows but look like pigeons.
So then Ed starts doing the exorcism in English all of a sudden, Karen. He changes from Latin to English. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do. I don't know. He commands the spirit to reveal itself, and the sheet covering Carolyn tears open. And then apparently Drew has found April under the floor of the kitchen or some shit.
Because he yells, I found April.
And he's prying the floorboards up to get to her.
I have more Latin, so I think he's going between English and Latin.
He probably is. But then we're in the cellar and everything goes quiet. Carolyn levitates in the chair. Ed begins speaking in Latin again, I wrote. And then the chair inverts and begins pounding on the ceiling of the cellar. And Ed commands the entity to put her down. And Roger tells the entity to let Carolyn go. And then Carolyn turns to him and says, she's already gone. And now you're all going to die. And then a shotgun falls from the corner and shoots at them. Then Drew yells to them that he found April and that she's under the floor in the kitchen. So Carolyn hears this and begins running under the house to where April is.
To kill her.
Yeah. So then Ed calls the witch or whatever, Bathsheba.
Calls her by name.
And damns her to hell. Then Lorraine lays her hand upon Carolyn's forehead and forces her to remember the day at the beach that they talked about earlier.
Which there's a picture of. I think it's a
Carolyn vomits.
When Ed yells, Bathsheba, by the power of God, I condemn you back to hell. It's a nice shot. When he says her name, the witch turns and looks at him. I thought it was a pretty good, scary shot right there. So, but Carolyn remembers the beach and, like you said, starts puking. Looks like she might be back.
And then peaceful, happy music starts playing, Karen.
I said it's going to take some serious therapy for everyone involved in that.
So apparently it's morning. They all go out into the bright light. The other girls arrive in the police car and they all hug. Ed and Lorraine kiss. April gives Lorraine the locket. She found it in the cellar, apparently. Everything is wonderful. Then the Warrens arrive back at home. Ed adds the music box to the room of artifacts. Lorraine tells him that the Vatican has approved the exorcism. Well, late now, Vatican. Then we have words to read, Karen.
Wait, she says there's a case in Long Island that the priest wants to talk to us about, which I think is the Amityville Horror, right? Isn't that in
maybe
Long Island?
I don't know. Words to read, Karen. Diabolical forces are formidable. These forces are eternal and they exist today. The fairy tale is true. The devil exists. God exists. And for us as people, our very destiny hinges upon which one we elect to follow. Ed Warren. That's a quote attributed to him. Then the music box plays and the camera pans around and the mirror spins and then the screen goes dark.
Was there something in it? I couldn't see anything.
There wasn't. Because I was expecting something and there wasn't.
Okay. I couldn't tell if there was a face in the...
Nope. Then we see actual photos of the Perron and Warren family and credits with archival photos. So we see the actor who played the person with the actual picture of the person they were portraying, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite part, Karen.
Well, do you think the other spirits...
Then we got credits. Then we got lots of credits.
Do you think the other spirits stayed in the house? He only damned Bathsheba to hell. So the other ones are still there. And that one mother who chased Lorraine didn't look very pleasant. They didn't get rid of everybody, right?
And I have seen like those ghost shows or whatever. That's when they've actually investigated this house. But they did interview the kids, the children, the girls. Or most of them. I know there was at least one or two that did not even want to talk about it. I think maybe April didn't. One of them didn't want to talk about it at all. So she wasn't filmed. But anyway, Karen, any more information you can provide us on the Warrens or anything about this story?
Well, I looked up who was the real Bathsheba Sherman. So the most haunting spirit in the movie was supposed to be witch Bathsheba Sherman. And she was born in Rhode Island in 1812, and she married fellow Rhode Islander Judson Sherman, who was 1 year older than her, in 1844. She was a housewife, and he worked as a farmer on their land. They were pretty well off, and they had a son, Herbert, when she was about 37. And they might have had other children, but none of them survived past the age of 7. But there's no hard evidence to support that Bathsheba was really a witch, only local legend and folklore. So they lived on a neighboring farm in the 1800s. Suspicion grew when an infant mysteriously died in her care. So from a neighbor's farm. When the baby was examined, it was determined that the mortal wound was caused by a large sewing needle that had been impaled in the base of the kid's skull. So like a pithing. The townspeople believed that Bathsheba sacrificed the infant as an offering to the devil, but they couldn't find any evidence and she was never convicted. So she died actually in 1885. She lived from 1844 to 1885. which is pretty good back in the day. There's a lot of articles online that say her body literally turned to stone when she died, or she died from a bizarre form of paralysis that frightened doctors, but there's no proof of any of that. It sounds like she got a bad rap because a baby from a neighbor happened to die in her care. Whether she did something or not is hard to say. I think one of the daughters wrote a book, but I can't remember which one. Andrea, that's the oldest one. She wrote a book, House of Darkness, House of Light.
Apparently Bathsheba was played by a man.
Yeah, I saw that.
All right. Anything you really like, pleasantly surprised by in this film, Karen?
I thought there was some good camera work, some nice shots where they turn things upside down, and the lightning and just different shots I noticed I thought were really good. So I thought cinematography was good. Thought the casting was good. This isn't necessarily the type of movie that I usually will see. I don't like to be scared like this. I don't like to think about it. Every time I hear a creak in my house or a door, it freaks me out too much. I've never experienced anything paranormal. Have you? I think we've talked about this before, but I haven't really. But I don't like to think about it because then it starts to wig me out. And I follow a bunch of old houses for sale on Instagram, which I think are beautiful, but things like this freak me out. Like, you don't know what happened there. They're so old. Something bad had to happen at some point. So I thought it was good. I learned about the Warrens, which I didn't really know anything about for a long time, which you would think I would have, but I had no idea who they were. A couple of years ago, I heard their names and I kind of knew generally who they were, but I would like to investigate them a lot more. But I thought it was a good movie. I didn't have any issues with it. What, did you like anything about it?
I liked it. Had a very 70s feel. I mean, they kind of got that shit right.
Definitely.
The clothing and hair and everything like that.
Even the kitchen when they were having coffee, the coffee pot, and when he was standing on the kitchen step stool kind of thing to hang a camera, I was like, my grandmother had one of those step stools with that had a seat on the top and then the steps pulled out from under it. I recognize that. So yes, definitely. They did the time period well. That's it? That's all you liked?
That's all I had. Yeah. It was fine. Anything you didn't like, Karen?
Well, I should also say I did like, me and sequel potential. There's definitely sequel potential there. I don't know if in the later films the same actors portrayed the Warrens, because that would have been cool if they did. But you could follow them around for lots of things. And they were definitely setting up the Annabelle angle. That didn't need to be in there, but they definitely were milking that. So sequel potential for sure. What I didn't like was only kind of the lack of information, like at the end when I said, did the other spirits stay there? I would have liked a little note at the end. Did the family stay there? I mean, I read later that they did, but the movie doesn't tell you that. It kind of left me hanging at the end. What happened beyond that? Did they never experience anything else ever again? They just say that she's gone and everybody leave, the Warrens leave but you never, okay, was that it? Did everything stop? Did some things stop? Other things didn't? I don't know. That's what I didn't like about it.
Yeah. Actors who played the Warrens did reprise their roles in the sequel.
So that's pretty cool.
And there have been 3 Annabelle movies.
Well, yeah, because Annabelle can always go to another place, right? I thought Annabelle was a Raggedy Ann doll. I thought that's what I read about Annabelle back in the day, but maybe not. But I didn't really not like anything about it. I think it was a scary, creepy movie that might stick with you. Do your research is what you learn from that.
And then there was also The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, and the same actors play the Warrens in that one again.
Oh, so they milked it, which there's nothing wrong with that.
And they were fine. Actually, I think the lady who played Lorraine is probably the best actor of the bunch. I liked her the best.
The mother was good too.
But
Lily
apparently
Taylor.
the Warrens aren't in Annabelle. did not like the guy who played Roger.
No?
Did not. I didn't think he was very good. It wasn't believable. And I would have preferred more background on the Perrons and not the Warrens. You know, why did they move? Why did they move from Jersey to this place? Why did they have to? Why?
Sounded like they needed
Why
more.
Cindy sleepwalk? I wanted more about them, not the fucking Warrens. So I would have preferred it had been more about the Perrons.
Well, true, because
then we don't bring in the Warrens until Carolyn contacts them.
yeah, why they didn't leave. You know, they do explain a little bit. They needed money, and you kind of get the impression that as a truck driver, he's not making a lot of money. But you're right. It sounds almost like something happened in Jersey, but we don't know what. And they're because they talk about they stopped at the beach for the pictures because they were celebrating. Everybody was happy. It's a new start. You're starting over. So it implies something happened that made them leave.
And I also felt that there's too much Annabelle in it.
I agree. That's what I mean. They were setting it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You felt that too, that it was, I agree, way too much.
But if I would have seen this, you know, back in 2013, I may not have cared. But since now there have been Annabelle and Annabelle Creation, there have been 2 Annabelle movies now, or 3 Annabelle movies now, apparently. I kind of know the name and what
Annabelle's
like.
overexposed.
Yeah. So looking back, it felt like it was set up.
I felt like I was being led. Like, why do I need to know about this? Like you said, I thought I'm watching the wrong movie. I thought, is this misled?
Because they were given too much, they were focusing too much on the Warrens, I think, and their backstory.
Yes, but that's what set up all the sequels. But you're right. Like when they could have just said, he could have walked through the door and said, yeah, I just investigated one was water pipes. But no, we had to see him go, and the couple was afraid, and there's
this whole weird thing between them, Ed and Lorraine too, like
that something happened to her, or how much they love each other.
What's going on with there's something weird going on there, and I don't know.
I would agree. Too much information in some places and not enough in others is what I would say. But I guess it's hard to decide what to put in the movie. Right.
What kind of cocktail rating you want to give this film, Karen?
I don't know. What do you think? I'm looking for guidance from you on this.
I think it's a 3.
Yeah. Okay. I'd give it a 3.5. But again, it's because it's not my kind of movie.
There were lots of things I liked about it, you know, but
I really liked the camera work. There were
my favorite part was all the jump scare shit. That's what I liked.
Yeah.
I didn't care about all the background shit about the Warrens and all that crap, but whatever. And Annabelle.
Like when the little girl looked under the bed and everything turned upside down. Very cool.
I guess I didn't care much for like the audio.
Oh, I didn't notice.
You know, it was very loud, you know, like when
they were screaming.
Yeah, when there were jump scares and shit going on. Do you watch these films with earbuds like I do, or headphones? Yeah, so do I. It was nice when it panned from side to side sometimes. Like you could tell where the claps were coming from, where they were playing hide and clap.
Yes.
That was cool. I did like that. But
I thought the kids were good.
All the thumping and all the jump scare shit was very loud.
You know, and you wouldn't, as we've talked about many times, but the sibling stuff, quit pulling my leg or quit farting. That's the kind of stuff you would say. That was the siblings interacted like siblings, you know, most of the time. Sometimes, you know, they were pretty nice to each other all the time, which doesn't happen a lot, but they played nicely together, which you would do if you'd moved into a house where you were that age and you didn't have anyone else to, you know, play games with. But they did also snipe at each other once in a while, even though it was in their sleep.
All right, Karen, would you like to hear some reviews?
Ooh, Critics Corner.
From the time.
From 2013. Let's hear them.
All right, so this first one is from RogerEbert.com. Even though he gone, and he was gone in 2013, he still has this website, and he has their staff that work it and do reviews, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
So this one was written by Simon Abrams. I don't know how many writers they have for it, but From Saw to Insidious, indie horror filmmaker James Wan's films have always been confrontational in their guileless grandstanding. So it's not surprising that watching The Conjuring is like getting a tour of a haunted house attraction from someone that pushes and pulls you through every room. There's nothing really scary about Wan's latest because there's nothing particular mysterious or inviting about its proceedings. The film's relentlessly lame expository dialogue and tedious parade of jump scares are overwhelming in the worst way possible. Only 1 in 5 scares hit home because while Wan sometimes proves that he can reel viewers in, he usually prefers to strong-arm his audience into submission. The fact that so many pseudo-spooky scenes in The Conjuring involve jump scares is telling. The director and writer want their film to be judged as a theme park attraction, but they fail to deliver bargain basement cheap thrills. Even if you ignored the parts of The Conjuring that require more than shock-deep emotional involvement, the film's scares are too monotonous and schematic to be really scary.
See, I don't think it's so much scary. Yes, there were jump scares, but I think the more, like I said, sticking with you, like now, okay, you've watched this film and now you're at home and you're asleep and you hear a floorboard creak or a door creak or something. If you're like me and you overthink everything, that's where it starts to get to you. I mean, I thought the jump scares were good. Were they a trope by 2013? I guess so.
I have another from the Austin Chronicle, Karen.
And what's that one say?
The Conjuring uses every parlor trick imaginable to scare up a scream. Deafening door slams, ghostly apparitions, demonic cackling, levitating chairs. The seen it all before elements of this supernatural thriller directed by a filmmaker who gave us Saw, however, are more hoary than horrific. And it's hoary, Hoary.
Oh, okay.
It might as well be retitled The Amityville Exorcist. Aside from its blatant thievery, the bedeviled The Conjuring falls short for other reasons, most notably as a result of an odd narrative structure in which the Perrons and the Warrens vie for the audience's sympathies. When the film diverts attention to the latter in an unnecessary sequence involving a creepy doll named Annabelle, any momentum achieved by the indiscriminate events in the haunted household is irrelatively lost. The Conjuring wants it both ways, alleging veracity to legitimize its premise and then using familiar, overused tactics to scare the bejesus out of you. It's enough to make your head turn 360 degrees.
Nice. Well, I agree with the splitting. Like you said, the Warren stuff wasn't necessary.
Yes, and at this point, when this was written, there was no Annabelle movies.
But they were setting it up.
It feels that way.
Yeah. But I also think, I mean, they're complaining.
And this guy says it was unnecessary.
Well,
looking back now, it might have been necessary.
Yeah, that's true. But don't you think if they were following what happened in the house, I mean, that's what was happening according to the Perron family, right? Slamming doors and, I mean, sure, they're overused and things, but they were following what was happening in the house. So either they were making it a true story, and I'm using my quotation marks because I don't know, or they're not. So don't they have to follow what they said the family said was happening? So if they're going to complain about it.
But it's based on a true story, right? It's based. So there are some artistic license
involved
here, I believe.
Okay. But still, it does have everything that you'd think if I was writing a haunted house would be in it. Slamming doors, creaking floors, pictures coming off the walls, but they get a little more inventive with the Amityville horror.
All right. Comments on the cocktail, Karen?
From what I can tell, even though I don't have all the ingredients and I totally screwed it up because I put my coconut milk in the refrigerator and it solidified. I like black licorice. I think it's okay. I think yours probably tastes better than mine. So
Very black licorice-y, but
but visually it's kind of stunning from what I saw the pictures of and what you described. So I think as a Halloween drink or to watch The Conjuring, I think it's perfect if you don't live in Ohio, or at least central Ohio, where you can't get to Kentucky easily.
or any other neighboring state.
Yes, that probably has it.
All right. Anything we learned today, Karen?
We learned about the English shepherd. We learned about Bathsheba, both in the Bible and Bathsheba Sherman. We learned about the Warrens, about Rhode Island telling you to do your own damn research if you're buying a house, signs of demonic possession. I think is that it?
Pretty much.
And that you can't buy black Sambuca in Ohio. Prove me wrong. I'm going to sit with the little sign. You know how they do. Prove me wrong. So please, if you found it in Ohio, info@scaryspirits.com. I want to know where.
All right. Next film, Karen.
Next film is your choice, Greg.
Oh, is it?
What did you choose?
Karen, the film I have chosen is Revenge of the Creature.
Oh.
From 1955, I believe.
Why did you choose that film?
The sequel to The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Our next episode comes out on May 17th, Karen, and Revenge of the Creature was released May 13th, 1955, apparently. And it was originally released in 3D, so I'm hoping one of us will find it in 3D and have the correct glasses.
I've not seen it. Have you seen it?
I have not, but we've seen The Creature.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if they use the same costume. And
apparently they do. Same guy even does all the swimming and stuff.
The swimmer, yeah. Excellent. I look forward to that. Is there a drink to go with this?
There is, Karen.
Awesome. Do you think you can find all the ingredients in Ohio?
Yes, I believe so, Karen.
Fantastic. What is the drink?
It's called the Clint Eastwood cocktail, Karen.
Okay. Why?
This was also Clint Eastwood's first film.
Oh, okay. I didn't expect that.
He has a very, very small part in it, but he's in it, and it's his first film role.
Okay, cool. What's in this drink?
We're going to need rye whiskey,
okay,
or just whiskey. I don't care. I'm going to use whiskey. I'm going to use whatever I have, Karen. Bitters, an herbal liqueur such as Jägermeister.
But can I use absinthe?
An herbal liqueur.
I don't know what that means.
Well, Sambuca is an herbal liqueur.
Well, I can't get that.
We can get the white one.
Well, okay.
Simple syrup and an orange peel for garnish.
So it's like a Manhattan, kind of. Is that what it's like? Okay. All liquor. Oh, there's some simple syrup in there.
Simple syrup. A whole quarter ounce, Karen.
Oh, well. Psh.
I mean, there's 2 ounces of 2 ounces of whiskey, an eighth an ounce of bitters, an eighth an ounce of herbal liqueur, and a quarter ounce of simple syrup.
Okay.
Mix and serve.
With ice?
Yep.
Or neat?
Nope. Combine all ingredients in a mixing glass with ice. Strain into a cocktail glass.
Oh, so no ice in the glass.
Garnish with an orange peel. All right. Anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
Well, Greg, as always, I'm going to thank our listener. There's a lot of podcasts out there. Thanks for spending time with us. And since this was a listener choice, if you have a movie you'd like us to do, please reach out at info@scaryspirits.com and let us know. What about you, Greg? Who do you need to thank?
Well, I'm going to thank Nye's Bizarre Cinema, who subscribed to us on YouTube. And I want to thank Joe Farrar, who has a podcast called Into the Darkness. And he started listening to us and gave us a shout out on his podcast. So thank you, Joe.
And we're giving him a shout out on our podcast.
We are.
What's
he does a podcast talking about horror films, but they're more, I shouldn't say more, very obscure horror films. And that's the whole point, I guess, of his podcast, is to introduce the public out there to the more obscure, not always good, but obscure horror films out there
Well,
that
that's
you
how
may
it
not have
goes.
heard from before.
What's his format? Is he spoiler like us, or is he just straight up reviews?
No, he's not really a spoiler.
So he just talks about them.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll have to check it out.
Into the Darkness.
Available on all platforms?
Apparently.
Cool.
I found it on Spotify and Google Podcasts, so I assume he's probably pretty much everywhere. So yeah, check him out. Oh, and Karen, I need to thank the people of the wonderful country of Belgium.
Belgium coming through.
Yes, thank you,
Nice.
Belgium. And if you're listening and you're in Belgium, drop us a line. Tell us where you are in Belgium. I'd like to know.
And do you have a spare room? Can we visit? We'll watch horror movies with you.
Do you have a favorite horror movie in Belgium? Don't know. It's like a foreign country to me, Karen. I don't know. Oh, and also, of course, I need to thank the band Verse 13 for providing all of the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Thanks so much for listening. Want to keep in touch? Check out our website, scaryspirits.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Scary Spirits Podcast. Find us on YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast. If you have questions or comments, you can email us at info@scaryspirits.com. To help us grow the podcast, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We really do appreciate your support. And as always, please drink responsibly.